So Tantra's idea, fundamental idea was that the things that make you fall in normal religion, whether it's meat, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, etc., which is the standard idea, is that these will make you fall. So let us divinize those processes so that they become the means through which you can attain to the divine. And that japa is, that mantra japa is not, it's not a 1 minute thing, it's not a 2 minute thing. Sometimes texts will recommend that you have to chant a mantra which is so long that may take you 30 minutes, 35 minutes. How do you last for so long? Till the mantra japa is complete, there cannot be a release, there cannot be an orgasm. In order to do that, there were techniques that were added so that you can hold back the orgasm, both for the, specifically for the male, while you are continuing the mantra japa. So the primary aim is, if you're not doing the mantra japa and if you're just having sex and practicing those techniques, it is useless. It has got nothing to do with Tantra sadhana. Whatever else you are doing, that is not Tantra sadhana.
Hey guys, so lately, under any podcast that we've uploaded on the channel, you guys have demanded for more episodes with Rajarshi Nandy. This particular episode was recorded the day after we recorded the original blockbuster trilogy. If this is the first Rajarshi Nandy episode you're watching, and I'm sure there's many of you out there like that, please go see the trilogy first ideally. If you've already watched the trilogy, this one is sort of an extension. It's more specific to Tantric sex. When people hear the word Tantra, lots of people all over the world think of sex along with Tantra. Tantra is basically a set of techniques, a set of practices, a set of disciplines that originated out of the subcontinent, and they're primarily meant for your own spiritual advancement. Tantric sex is simply one of the techniques amongst a horde of other Tantra-based techniques. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I will let Rajarshi Nandy sir explain it further. All I'll say is that our meditation app, Level Supermind, is now live. If you want to begin your own spiritual journey, if you want to take it further, if you want to dive into your own subconscious mind, we've uploaded some extremely deep meditations on Level Supermind. It's linked down below. Make sure you check it out. And make sure you follow TRS on Spotify. We're a Spotify exclusive. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. This is the superstar of TRS who returns once again to give us another blockbuster episode. This is the Tantric Sex special with Rajarshi Nandy. Rajarshi Nandy sir, welcome back to the Ranveer Show. Namaste. There's a lot of people who are watching you on the show for the first time because of the thumbnail.
Right.
The word Tantra for a lot of Westerners is something synonymous with spiritual sex. That's how most of the international spiritual seekers understand the word Tantra to begin with. But Tantra is like the alphabet and sex might be one of the letters in it. It's such a wide subject. It's not at all synonymous with sex. But in saying that, this entire episode will be centered around the spiritual aspect of sex. What would you like to say first and foremost?
I hope that through this podcast, we can clear certain misconceptions about it also, because with anything that becomes too widely and easily available outside of context, there's always going to be a lot of things that may or may not be the part of the actual process. So maybe we can do that also.
Yeah.
In this.
There's a lot of books which use Tantric sex in the title. But if you actually open the book, it's activities that you do before and during sex, which are said to enhance sexual pleasure. It's supposed to increase the intensity of the orgasm. It's supposed to create a deeper connection between you and your partner. It's supposed to allow you to get multiple orgasms. There's even techniques to not ejaculate when you orgasm as a man.
Right.
But the thing is, those books never talk about the origins of Tantra as a whole. Now, do you want to address the sexual topics first, or do you want to address Tantra as a whole first?
Let's go. So Tantra as a whole, just very briefly, it's a very wide range of methods of worship of deity. But the most important thing that you have to remember, and this example that you gave, this is so typical of this. The first thing that we must remember is that Tantra is a method of upasana. It's a method of worship.
Hmm.
So it is not about sex, it is not about meat, it's not about alcohol. These are props that help you, but they are not the end. They are not the goal. The goal has to be in mind. So the goal is to succeed in the upasana of the deity.
Okay. Again, some context for first-time listeners. Basically, the goal is evolution of your own mind
Spiritual
towards what some people believe is called God or the higher power
or the deities.
or the deities.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of what are deities?
So deities are in our system, the way we look at it, deities are as good as gods. We don't believe in one god. We believe there are multiple gods. That's all. Each god is a deity.
You know, in Pokemon, how they have Pokemon, like they throw a Pokemon, that's a lower form. It's like a pet that fights for you. Imagine that you have higher forms of these, which are above you.
Okay. So I haven't seen that, but I
Okay.
can't relate to that example because I don't know. But yeah, more or less, the very simple definition is that there are some cultures that believe that there is one God. We believe that there are many gods and each of them are omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. That's all. Some could be Shiva, some could be Krishna, some could be the goddess, various forms of the goddess. Tantra more or less relates more to the worship of Shakti, which is the goddess forms.
Okay. Hinduism also believes in Parabrahma, which is that one universal God.
Yes.
Which is the God that the whole world knows.
There is, however, one small difference. The Brahman or the Parabrahman that is called in Vedanta, it is absolutely neutral, which means that it does not care much about you. It does not. Hindus never made a temple to the Brahman. Hindus don't have a ritual to worship the Brahman. It is like the fate, the concept of fate that was there in the ancient Greek religion, which was almost like ours, sort of, not same, but kind of multiple deities, forms were there. So there is a power that is higher, but it is very neutral. It does not care whether you worship it or not. It is not even asking you to do anything. There is no way you can worship it. No Hindu, no Rishi ever actually made a temple to the Brahman. You can worship the deities, and the deities will interact with you. They embody the power of the Brahman. The Brahman is a very neutral principle. Who worships the Brahman? A sannyasi, which means one who has left life completely. He worships the Brahman. Why? How does he do it? By meditating on it. Why does he do it? So he gets that neutral perspective of life. It is not going to give you anything else. You cannot worship the Brahman and say you can worship, in our context, you may worship Lakshmi, Ma Lakshmi, and say that I need some money. My financial condition is not good. You can worship Lord Shiva and say that I need a cure for a disease.
A sannyasi is a hermit, someone who leaves the material world.
Right.
But you're saying that within the material world, first of all, one of the goals of Hinduism for the material world is get done with your material desires so that you can move on to spiritual desires.
Yes.
But while you're stuck in the material world, these deities help you progress fast spiritually or materially.
Both aspects. Both aspects of that.
Okay.
But the Brahman is not like that. So you cannot pray to the Brahman and say that you give me a good, some money I need, some cure for a disease I need, or you cannot even pray for moksha. It doesn't care whether you exist or it doesn't care whether you worship. That is a huge difference between the concept of God as we know it that comes from the West versus the idea of God that the Brahman that we believe in that comes in Vedanta and the other texts.
Fascinating. Okay. Now let's begin talking about the sexual activities that we spoke about, and maybe one precursor is that a gist of some of the stuff you spoke about in our first episode is that Tantra is like a path.
Yes.
The general path for every single human being is spiritual progress.
Right.
Going closer to evolution.
Correct.
Because this is not our final form of being a human. Now, you can progress by meditating. You can progress by praying. Tantra is like you're taking a car and going on that same road where most other people are walking.
Right.
And then there's different types of cars depending on the kind of Tantra you follow.
Right.
Including Aghori, which is a common term that a lot of the West understands. You know, the Babas who are supposed to be famous for eating human flesh. That's one of the aspects in their life. They follow a set of rules, which is like driving a Formula 1 car on the same road.
Right.
Excerpts from a Hindi podcast, which is also fantastic. Coming back to this conversation, sir. Now I will let you shed some light on the tantric sex aspect.
Yeah.
Because most people look at tantric sex as a tool to improve their sex life.
So this is like where does, as we were discussing in the last podcast, so this whole concept of tantric sex or sex for that matter comes in at the level of Vamachara Tantra, where it's, as I mentioned, there's a level that's called the Vamachara, which is the left-hand path. In left-hand path, you start offering meat, you offer alcohol, you offer fish, you offer mudra, and you offer sex.
And this is at a very high level of Tantra.
High level of
After
Tantra.
you've done a lot of the lower level stuff.
Yes. So more, in fact, it is to say that to pick out sex out of these 5 things, we call this technically the Pancha Makara, 5 M's. Okay. So to pick out just one aspect out of it and then to believe that this is going to improve your sex life, etc., is equivalent to saying that, okay, I just take out that meat offering part of it and perhaps that's a way to increase protein intake in my body. So that would be that ridiculous. So the aim, that's what I said. The aim of the process, of the whole process of everything that is done in Tantra is worship of the deity. It has to be very clear and firm in your mind. So long as something is helping you in worship of the deity and it is within the permitted rules of Tantric Upasana, we call it, the practice, it is allowed for you. Okay. But the aim has to be clear that it is for the worship of the deity. It is not for pleasure. It is not for any other kind of indulgence. It is not going to make you a Superman or anything of that sort. Okay. So having said that, sex is also one of the things that can be offered to the deities, but there is a process to it. It is not normal sex and it requires certain amount of preparation of mantra upasana, which means the chanting of mantras of the deity. And chanting of mantras not just one, twice. So Tantra looks at it this way. You have an Ishta Devata, a god you are worshipping, the form of the mother that you are worshipping, and you may have to chant lakhs of mantras of that deity. Not even 1, 2 lakhs. Some texts will tell you 5, 10, 15, 20 lakhs of the mantra.
A lakh is 100,000.
100,000. Yeah. Of the mantra that you have obtained from a legitimate guru through a tantric initiation. Okay. Now suppose, so Tantra was never originally a path of the sannyasis. Though various sannyasi sects later on adopted Tantra because it is very powerful, its techniques are powerful, it adopted those parts which did not violate with their sannyasi code, which means that they did not take these aspects of Tantra. They took the right-hand path, which is called the Dakshinachara. That is also Tantra. So, Tantra's idea, fundamental idea was that the things that make you fall in normal religion, whether it's meat, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, etc., which is the standard idea, is that these will make you fall. So let us divinize those processes so that they become the means through which you can attain to the divine. Okay. And in this, one of the most legendary tantric acharyas, in fact, he is almost is beyond an acharya. He is one of the greatest Nath yogis. He was known as Matsyendra Nath. He used to live in Kamakhya. Okay, and he was born somewhere in Bengal, and he practiced his Tantra sadhana upasana in Kamakhya, and he composed a lot of text on these aspects of Tantra, Yogini sadhana and Bhairavi sadhana, etc. So, the fundamental basic idea at what primary level of where sex is used in Tantra is that the partners have to be, first of all, initiated into the process. Both. It cannot be one person. Both. So
by a guru?
By a guru, definitely.
By the same guru?
It can, ideally it's the same guru. Okay, ideally if it's the same guru, in fact, the guru not only does initiate, but he also ensures if it's a husband-wife partner, etc. So they will initiate that it is the same form of the deity that is given to them.
This is also where we should mention a word of caution, because this is where a lot of people might misuse their position of spiritual power.
Yes, that's there. That's another aspect. Yes.
Do you want to shed some light on that?
But first, let's complete this thought process.
Sure.
So Guru initiates both the partners. In any case, both the partners must have the tantric initiation. Okay, that is mandatory. Number 2, they must be doing their mantra sadhana properly, which is the mantra japa of the devata, deity. That is like doing a seva to the seva means a service to the deity. And the deity, by the way, in once you go higher into tantra sadhana, it is the average conception of the deity that we look at is the vigraha, the murti in temples. Wonderful, that is there. That's for the public. But for you, the mantra is the deity. For an individual who is into the tantric path, the mantra that is given to you, okay, whatever is the mantra, that mantra is the deity. It is like the subtle body of the deity. As we were talking about subtle body and physical body. So the mantra is the subtle body of the deity.
Astral body.
Astral body, sort of that. And when you are chanting that mantra, you are trying to connect to the subtle body of the deity. Now, fundamentally, what this process entails is that when both of these partners, it doesn't just happen, it's not like something that you just go ahead and have sex. No, there's a puja that has to be done specifically. There are mantra japas that has to be done. And then there are certain mudras, certain manners in which they have to sit in certain postures, etc. And during the course of having sex, they have to keep chanting the mantra of the deity. And that mantra japa is not, it's not a 1 minute thing, it's not a 2 minute thing. Sometimes texts will recommend that you have to chant a mantra which is so long that may take you 30 minutes, 35 minutes. How do you last for so long? Till the mantra japa is complete, there cannot be a release, there cannot be an orgasm. In order to do that, there were techniques that were added so that you can hold back the orgasm, both specifically for the male, while you are continuing the mantra japa. So the primary aim is, if you're not doing the mantra japa and if you're just having sex and practicing those techniques, it is useless. It has got nothing to do with Tantra sadhana. Whatever else you are doing, that is not Tantra sadhana.
Again, another tale of caution. This is why tantric healers, tantric sexual healers, it's all of ours.
More or less. I would not.
I'm talking about the Western tantric sexual, who keep it in the Instagram bios and all.
Yeah.
If you're going to one of them, just be careful.
I don't know why they add tantra to it, because more of them, most often there is no tantra involved in it. It's just some sexual techniques and all that. You can package it in any name.
This is what gives spirituality a bad name.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Whatever.
But if it is done correctly, both the partners are of that, of that similar caliber. So there are more rules in this. Some of them perhaps cannot even be spoken of without. So they have these rules are there, that these certain esoteric aspects of this. Sometimes it is referred to, for example, as Panchama. Panchama means fifth. Fifth means that it is talking about the fifth of the 5 offerings, which is sex, basically. Okay. So Panchama, sometimes when you're talking about the Panchama offering, etc., there are many rules of how to judge the partner. Yes, just by observation. So when you are worshipping the goddess, for example, there are thus 10 Mahavidyas are there. Okay. Leaving aside one of the Mahavidyas.
Mahavidya is the goddess.
Great wisdom. The tantric goddesses.
Forms of the goddess that each represent a different form of wisdom.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Mahavidya worship is tantric. Okay. So leaving aside one of the Mahavidyas, for the other Mahavidyas, there is a dictum, it's believed, and it's not to be mindlessly applied, that every woman has some of the other influence of these 10 goddesses. Every woman. Whether she is aware of it or not is irrelevant.
Why not every man?
That is because women are considered as a representative of Shakti. Men are considered as representative of the Purusha Tattva.
Shiva,
Purusha. Purusha is Shiva. Krishna can also be a Purushottama. I was just mentioning yesterday, and that's it. That's another topic. Okay, we'll skip that for now because it'll divert it into another, and that's also beautiful. All of it is beautiful. I mean, there's no part that is not beautiful. So women are considered as a representative of Shakti. Okay. Now, this statement, however, cannot be misused out of context, which doesn't mean that every woman that you meet, you have to fall at her feet. No, that you are getting it all wrong. Okay. This is only relevant to somebody who is doing specific sadhana, specific worship in the tantric method and has reached a certain level. Okay. Otherwise, in your normal context, when you meet, whether a man or a woman, in the normal rational way that you interact with them, you interact with them. That's all. Neither good nor bad. Doesn't mean a thing. Now, if you are that kind of a person who has had a tantric initiation and is a tantric upasaka and has done certain sadhanas and has reached
upasaka is a practitioner.
So, is a practitioner, correct. The practitioner has the right initiations and most importantly has done the practice properly. It's very important. There are people I know who have a lot of initiations, no practice. That also will not work. It's useless. That's like you hanging 10 medals around you, but inside there's nothing. So then by looking at the woman, you will know that which of the Mahavidyas she represents. Which of the forms of Shakti is latent inside her. That's one thing. Latent means that most of them are not even aware, and which is perfectly all right. Just like most men have Purusha Tattva, but that doesn't mean that every man is Lord Shiva or Lord Krishna. It doesn't work. Same way, not every woman has anything to do with the deity. There is the potential for one. If the sadhana is correctly done, that potential can awaken. If that woman becomes self-aware of what she holds within, then she becomes one of the Bhairavis and Yoginis in the higher realms. And then everybody will fall at the feet of such a woman, and that is very rare, and it's possible and it happens there, and it's a very high level idea. But in this upasana, the other thing is that it breaks certain mental taboos that is there in the normal course of upasana. In the Vedic or standard upasana, we are told that you have to maintain a certain degree of celibacy, which is right. I'm not denying that in certain practices, celibacy is very important. Otherwise, it will not work. It will not show you the result. It causes a break in concentration, more or less. One of the typical effects of not having celibacy is that it causes a break in the concentration at the peak moment when you are supposed to have 110% focus on the mantra and the deity. That is where thoughts and images of sexual encounters will rise up, and it happens from the chitta within. It rises up and it is going to break your concentration. You will not get the result.
The chitta is the core of your soul.
It's like your mind. It's a part of your mind. It's like that place inside you where impressions happen all the time.
Subconscious mind?
Conscious mind only, but it's latent, just below the conscious mind. You're meeting somebody, you're anything, whatever activity you're doing, it just collects an impression of it.
Okay.
And randomly it throws up. Just like that. When you're not thinking about it, suddenly, specifically when you're trying to meditate, it's going to throw up all sorts of images. It happens to everybody. Okay. Coming back to the topic of tantric sex. So basically, this practice is done during the time of this sadhana. During the time, the woman is actually to be made to sit in a specific posture, and mantras have to be chanted all over her body. And I will not go into the specific details of how this is done and what mantras also. Everything is as per, it's not something randomly done. These are things that are mentioned in text and passed down through traditions, of those traditions where these forms are worshipped. Specific forms of the mother, the Mahavidyas are there for whom this sadhana is extremely potent. Okay. You have to know, number one. Number two, there is a knowledge of what kind of a partner is suitable for this. Somebody who has, through mantra sadhana, there is an intuitive ability that develops. Just by looking at a person, you'll get to know what kind of result is going to happen. And this thing, by the way, extrapolates it outside of the tantric context also. The reason why there is a certain amount of control over sex is always advised in the spiritual path, because when you have unrestricted sexual encounters with people, you do not know what karmas they have done. You are going to imbibe their energy. That is the easiest way to take in somebody else's energy, is that.
Tantra believes that if you have sex with someone you don't know, you're saying, I accept this person's karmas as my own.
Yeah, not just Tantra. Any way it will happen. Is the easiest way. On the other hand, if this process is correctly done and the right people are there, it is when you are doing it as a practice, as a spiritual practice, not just for enjoyment, etc., spiritual practice, it has the power to instantly open up all the chakras in your body.
Which could be dangerous?
No. It can lead you then. And mind you, everything is going perfect. I'm talking about the result that it finally produces. If everything is right, it will lead you to a state known as Mahabhava Samadhi, which means that you are in a state of absolute bliss, rapture.
Extended orgasm?
No, it's way beyond that. You will have a vision of the deity. It will be in a state of samadhi, means basically your mind becomes absolutely concentrated on the deity, and there will be a manifestation of the deity. And it is a state of, it's unbelievable if it's correctly done. And the progress that will happen between the two partners together, it's like it doubles your power.
Probably also get connected to your partner more deeply.
That is there. That's a side effect of it. That is also there beforehand, which means that this process is anyway not going to work if you have not had the same partner for many lifetimes. Just like that, if you meet karmically somebody, it's not going to work out. It will just be a relationship, and 2 days later, you'll have some fight and each will go its own way.
So I'm assuming that the guru who actually initiates both the partners into this will ensure that either they are husband and wife or...
So here is, in this age today, mostly it is ensured that it's a husband and wife. But there is another tradition, older tradition that used to happen. And there are certain tantric sampradayas where tantric upasakas were almost like sannyasis sort of. So not sannyasis, sort of they've left society.
Hermits.
Kind of, hermits, yeah, maybe. Basically, they've left society. So they're not part of a formal society. They only practice the tantric upasana, and they're connected to the mandali. Mandali means group. That specific group who practice tantra sadhana. In their marriage is not specifically there. Out of free will, they decide, both the partners decide, and the guru decides whether they have the capacity for it. Okay. Here is the thing. What is the level of the male partner and what is the level of the female partner? And there are specific terms that are used. For the male, the term that is used is Bhairava, and the female, the term that is used is Bhairavi. Okay, so whether the Bhairava and the Bhairavi are matched for this kind of a practice, and then they can stay together for some period, could be months, could be years, etc. Then they may even go out, in the sense that, part ways in the sadhana. So this was an accepted idea in tantric circles earlier, when there used to be more of people who used to leave society, normal society, and practice entirely in the tantric path. I remember an anecdote I had read, and that's not an anecdote actually. It's a true incident. There's a beautiful text in Bengali. It's called Tantro-bhilashi Sadhu-sanga, which means that Tantro-bhilashi, somebody who is curious about Tantra sadhana, tantric processes, that kind of an individual, uh, uh, he goes out in search of sadhus who are of the tantric persuasion, and he interacts with them. And this gentleman spent 12 years roaming around India trying to find these kind of people. Later he came back home, and later he had gone to Sri Aurobindo, and then he wrote that book, and that book is a cult classic. Only thing is that it is in Bengali. Those who have read it, it'll blow your mind. It's one of the greatest books I've read. So there he had an interesting encounter. He mentions he comes from a traditional Vedic family, so he is suspicious of Tantra. He mentions right at the beginning. He thinks that this is some kind of jhol, to use the very typical Mumbai language.
Like some kind of farce.
Farce. Yeah. He doesn't believe that this thing actually leads to anything. He's very skeptical, and he's very honest that he's skeptical about it. But he's still curious to see. And it's perhaps his destiny that he gets to meet a lot of great tantric upasakas of that era. And he was an artist, by the way. So all he used to carry with him was a pen and paper. And whenever he used to meet somebody interesting, he used to make a sketch of that individual. Okay. So he goes to a place called Vakreshwar in Bengal. Vakreshwar is one of the ancient Shakti Pithas.
An important divine feminine temple.
Yes.
I'm having to translate everything because we have so many American and European viewers. But I got your back. Go download my meditation app. I'm kidding. Go on.
So he goes to Vakreshwar. That is one of the very famous and powerful temples of the goddess, okay, of the tantric temples. And it was that in that era, the temple was famous for Virachar sadhana. Virachar is an extreme form of Tantra sadhana where these things come into play. Viracha, Veer means you are like a hero. Veer. Okay. Since we're talking of Tantra classifies men into 3 categories. First is Pashu, an animal. Who is an animal? Who has no spiritual conception. Just going around doing whatever else you are doing in life, you are a Pashu. After you have the tantric initiation and you start doing your practices, you become a Veera. You are a hero because you are trying to fight against your tendencies and develop yourself spiritually. And then last stage, you become a Divya, or a divine being. Okay. This is the 3 categories of men. Whole of Tantra Shastra is meant only for the Veera. For the Pashu, who is uninitiated at the initial stages, you do the Vedic sadhana. You're not even entered the arena. The Veera, after you have the initiation, then only all these rules, all this makara, everything comes into play. And finally, the divine, the Divya, he also has no rules. Why? Because he has already become divine. Whatever he does is correct. So Tantra says that you don't mess with him, and the Pashu, you don't bother about him. It's only the middle section that I am curious about and bother. That temple was famous for Virachara, and this gentleman goes there. And this must be in early 1900s, maybe 1910 or something. I don't remember the year, etc. So people tell him that in the cremation ground, and the cremation ground still exists, by the way, and that cremation ground is so interesting, not advisable for people to just hear and rush there. But even in the afternoon, if you go there, you'll have that certain airy feeling there in that area. It's wonderful place for certain kinds of upasanas, certain kind of tantric sadhanas. And thankfully, it is not yet commercialized, so it's good. Here he goes there, and there's a temple of the mother goddess of Ma Durga is there, Mahisamardini, and he stays in the temple. In the those days, if there's a wandering monk that comes, he used to wear that monk kind of dress. So they gave him some food and a place to stay and all that. And somebody tells him that there is an Aghori who sits in the cremation ground. So they just call him Baba. They don't know what his name is. They just know that he has come from Tamil Nadu. He's come from the south, and he's sitting there, and he stays there in the cremation grounds, and nobody disturbs him. Nobody messes with him. And this guy gets very curious. Okay, he's curious, he's scared, he's also skeptical that all these things are some farce, but at the same time, there's curiosity also. He's like, what is happening? What is this, etc. Somebody tells him that Aghori, as we were discussing, he eats once in 3 days. And what does he eat? He consumes the brain matter of dead bodies with rice once in 3 days. The dome is the individual who used to, helps in the burning of the bodies.
Yeah, which is a whole other topic by itself. We've met some domes, and that's a whole. It's a society almost.
Yes.
And they're supposed to also have tantric powers, I believe.
The worshippers of so it's there.
Yeah.
So in that, the dome used to refer to him, call him Baba, and he used to get that brain matter. If you have ever seen a skull pop in the fire, it makes a sound. And
what's the sound like?
It's like it's like a cracking of the skull in the fire, and then something will that brain matter, the gooey mass comes out, etc. So observed in a cremation ground. Anyway, so he used to consume that once in 3 days. He was a hardcore Aghori. Aghori means he's gone beyond even the rules of Tantra sadhana also. Nobody used to mess with him, nothing. But people used to revere him very much. That he is not an ordinary person. He's become Bhairava only. Bhairava is the lord of the cremation ground. Shiva in his form as Bhairava is the king of the cremation ground. Nobody comes close to him. He's the one. Okay. He controls everything there. Then one day, after a few days, he sees that, and he is curious to meet the gentleman, but he's scared of the gentleman. He's writing all this. The mix of emotions is going on. Okay. He sees that there are a lot of tantrics who have, tantric upasakas have come to that place suddenly one day, and from different far off places. And we are talking about pre-independence India. So people have come from Bangladesh. There's a lady who has come from present day Bangladesh area. There's somebody who has come from some other place, etc. And he's wondering that why they're gathering. So he goes to one more friendly and approachable looking of the tantric upasakas and says that, why have you come? And he says that because we will be doing a chakra anushtan. Chakra anushtan is one of the highest pujas in Tantra Shastra. Greatest of pujas. Okay. Chakra is like the ultimate of upasanas. So, and the Baba has called us. How did he call? Telepathically. There's no telephone in that era. He's sitting in a cremation ground. He doesn't even have anything. So he telepathically calls them and they start coming. And those days they have to walk and things like that. So a few months ago and etc. They're gathering together. And they have come all in partners, groups, etc. And then there is a lady, who very senior tantric upasaka, who comes from Bangladesh. Okay. So this guy, he's curious and he's like asking, but don't you think this is all, what good can it come out of all whatever you guys do, etc. And the people are trying to convince him, no, you don't know this, you have not tried the path. If you don't know something, how can you say that it's good or bad? Okay.
Which is the story of most skeptics in the world.
Yes. So eventually the night of Amavasya comes. Amavasya is the new moon night.
Completely dark.
Okay. And at night, the chakra anushtan will happen. So what is a chakra anushtan? Chakra anushtan is a rahasya puja, it is called. Rahasya, mysterious worship. The term that is used is mysterious worship. It is not to be done in public. It cannot be even, ideally, the details of it cannot be spoken of in a gathering where the people are not initiated into Tantra puja. So people will sit in a circle and there will be a krama of sitting. There's the Bhairava and his Bhairavi will sit. Bhairava and his Bhairavi will sit. It's partner, Shakti. Okay. And there will be complete synergy between the two, by the way. When this practice is correctly done, the two people will have such coordination. One, the partner, the Bhairava may be here and the Bhairavi may be 5,000 kilometers away. Will know exactly what this person is thinking. And it will be perfectly, it's not like by fluke once or twice some coincidence happens and we think that, oh, something is happening. No. To test it, the Bhairava will mentally give a command, something weird. Okay. So, which is not, you cannot predict that thing, something. 3 to 4 times this test has to be done. Bhairavi is at a very far off distance. You will give a command. She will register it in her head and do exactly that. And that is how you know that the coordination has been built to that perfection. It is not to be left to a fluke. And I know that this may seem complete abracadabra to skeptics. I don't care. This is what it is. You believe it, you don't believe it, your business. I don't care. So then all this come together on the night. And in chakra, as I was saying, chakra, you sit together in a circle. Chakra means a circle. Together in a circle. And there's a leader of the chakra. He's known as Chakreshwara, lord of the chakra. And there is a Chakreshwari, his partner. Okay, they are like Bhairava and Bhairavi. They are like Shiva and Parvati, only in the cremation ground form. Cremation ground Shiva is Bhairava. Okay, and Bhairavi is his partner. So they sit together and they do this Panchamakara Upasana, one after the other. And it creates a tremendous crescendo of power. And the other thing that is there, once you enter the chakra, once anybody enters the chakra, you will lose your distinction of caste or any other outside. You may be rich, you may be poor, doesn't matter. As long as you are in the chakra, you're all one. Only difference is who has more Shakti than the other. And there is a certain arrangement of sitting that is followed in certain chakras and other things. But I won't go into all the details because not everything can be spoken of in public. But anyway, the chakra anushthan is happening. What I am talking to you is already written down in a text. Hundreds of people have read it. I'm just translating that story, and once again, because it brings out that element. Okay. So this guy, this author, he's very curious. What is it doing? So he goes into the cremation ground, and from a shrub in the forested certain areas, he hides himself there and is observing what exactly is going on. So you see that they are sitting together in a circle, and then in the middle there is the Ghori Baba who's sitting. On his left is that lady, that Upasaka, female Bhairavi who had come from Bangladesh, very senior, who was there, and the others were sitting in circles. So this goes like this, that the immediate left is the Shakti of that person, is the Bhairavi of that person. And then the puja starts. Puja means first there will be meat first. Okay. So meat with mantras, they will consume it, they will pass, consume, pass. And with every partaking of the meat, you will have to do mantra japa. It's not just, let's sit together and have a feast. No. Every partaking, you have to sit and do mantras of Ishta. Then there's Karan. The term alcohol is not used. Neither is Madira used. The term that is used in Tantra is Karan because it takes you to the Karan Sharir. Purified, sanctified alcohol that takes you to the Karan Sharir. And with mantras and all these things, it has to be purified. It is not something you just get from the market.
To understand the word Karan Sharir, you'll have to go back to our second podcast. Your body consists of three parts: your physical body, your astral body, and your causal body. Your astral body can be thought of as your ghost, and your causal body is your purest form of your soul, which is just pure light. Now go on, sir.
Okay. So he's seeing from a distance that what exactly are they doing? And he's seeing with a bit of skepticism and curiosity, as it happens. The more skeptical we are, the more curious also we are. What exactly is happening? And he sees that there is the meat that is being passed, then there's the fish, and then there's the alcohol, and then there's the mudra, parched grains. So there are certain dry grain stuff that we use for mudra. And then there is the final Panchama Makara. And he sees that the Bhairavi, the Chakreshwari, who is the leader of the pack, the Aghori and the Bhairavi, she sits in front, she opens her clothes. He starts doing mantra japa on her forehead, on her neck, on different parts of the body. This whole process goes on for 1 hour almost. So he is doing mantra anushtan, mantra japa, constantly mantra japa of the deity. Basically, he's invoking the form of the mother goddess inside, okay, of that Shakti, of the power of the deity inside that his Shakti, inside the lady who's sitting there. And she's also a tantric lady, by the way, not an ordinary woman, etc. And he's observing all this. And he is also not sure what exactly is happening, etc. And then after some time, and it's kind of dark. It's dark, and what he's seeing is through there are lamps. Those days, obviously, you didn't have that kind of in that remote place. So there was diyas or oil lamps, etc., lit in front of everybody. So the light of that lamp in the darkness at midnight on a cremation ground in an Amavasya, he's observing this scene. Okay. And then suddenly at the end of this whole puja process that is going on, he sees that the Ghori, who is the leader of the chakra, he sits, and on his left thigh, the lady who is also Tantric Upasaka, Bhairavi, she sits down in a specific mudra. Okay. And he's doing japa with this hand, there's a mala in his hand, like this is japa. And at that moment, there's a flash of lightning in the cremation ground, a thundering lightning. In the pitch darkness, and that lightning rips apart the darkness. Everything is visible at that time. And he sees, to his absolute shocking amazement, that there is the Chakreshwara, the Aghori is not there. It is Shiva who is sitting. Full jata there, and there are snakes around him in his head, and there is a Trishula, and there is Parvati sitting next to him. And he sees that and he faints. In that flash of lightning, all he sees, he writes down, is that I can see that the Chakreshwara is gone. It's not there anymore. It is Shiva who is sitting, and there's Parvati who is sitting there in that posture, in that specific mudra, we call it, in specific posture. And there are snakes in his jata, as Shiva has snakes, okay. And there is a Trishul near him, and there are beings all around, etc. And he faints. He wakes up next day in the afternoon. And the dome who used to be there, dome, he sees, when he wakes up, he sees that the dome is throwing water on his mouth and all that.
The person that burns the body.
So he's saying that while he was hidden there and observing all this, the Aghori knew everything. So after some time, the Aghori called the dome and said that that guy is there, he's fainted. Take him inside, let him rest. He doesn't have the capacity to take the power of this. He doesn't even have an initiation. Forget an initiation. He was a very genuine individual, very high caliber Upasaka, very, very, very high caliber. So the kind of power that is generated for a person who does not have that practice, if he's there, it is going to cause a shocking effect on you. As we were discussing in the previous podcast, the moment you come into face to face with a reality that is non-conceptual, so you build concepts in your head, whether it's skepticism, I don't believe it, whether, oh, this is a big theory, there's God somewhere, but he's not coming here, I'm safe completely. The moment you have an altered experience, it breaks down your concepts and you either run away scared from it or you bow down in reverence. There's no other rational way in which the mind can process an experience that is beyond your ordinary, what you are accustomed to. So this Chakreshwar, he knew that that guy was there. There's no way he can know because he's hidden there. And he calls this dome and says that he's fainted. Take him inside, put some water, let him sleep. So next day he wakes up and he's like stunned at what he has seen. And he comes to this Chakreshwar and says, and this Aghori starts laughing. Okay. And then there's a beautiful ensuing conversation. And it says that everything in this material plane is divine. It is not that there's a God outside. The God that you worship, Ishvara, Ishwari, the Shakti, the supreme power that we are worshipping, the supreme mother goddess that we are worshipping, she is here in this plane, everywhere, hidden inside. Even the things that you consider as impure, things that you consider as filthy, it is there, even there inside. That is the philosophy we have. We have, even from the Upanishads, there is a statement that Sarvam Khalvidam Brahman. Everything is Brahman. It is not saying that there is a God outside and not here. No. We don't believe only a transcendental God or a deity or an Ishvara. The Devata manifests here in this plane also. It is hidden there. It is through the process that you remove, process of the Upasana, of the practice of, you remove the veil and you have a direct experience of the deity. Okay. So what in this case, the whole point of this story was that when correctly done, this sadhana by the right people who are actually practicing and who look at it not as some kind of an enjoyment and some fringe activity I'm doing and some, whatever else they think they're doing. You look at it in the right sense. This is an upasana. This is the worship of the mother. You look at it with that sense of reverence, with that sense of sacredness. It has to be, that sacredness has to be there. And not just repeating sacredness 10 times. No. That feeling of reverence. When you go to a normal temple of, any normal temple, of a deity you have faith on, be it Hanumanji, be it Lord Shiva, be it Krishna, be it anybody, you have a sacredness and a sense of reverence, right? You go with you don't fool around there. You go, you fold your hands, sacredness. That sacredness has to be there in this process for it to work, because you are not just doing random actions. This is worship. Then this will manifest into a terrific spiritual state of absolute. This is Mahabhav Samadhi kind of state. This is where you not only have a manifestation of the deity. And I remember in the last podcasts, I think we mentioned that one of the goals of the Tantra sadhana and the other paths is for the deity to be inside you. Samavesha is the term that is used. Not just a liberation, but you divinize yourself completely. Okay, so that there's no difference between you and the deity, as I was saying. So this is what it is. That gentleman, that Aghori who was there, whose name is also not known, this incident, he had attained to that kind of a condition that when he was performing the ritual, Shiva himself had entered into him. There's no difference between him and Shiva. Now, what more is liberation? If Shiva, if a deity like Shiva comes into you, etc., that is yei moksha. This is moksha. This is liberation. This is all there is.
What about the people in that circle? They're a part of it to spiritually advance.
Yes.
Like, I'm assuming we spoke about how tantric sex is a very big boost in your spiritual advancement. I'm assuming that a ritual like this makes it even faster.
Yes.
And is everyone naked in this?
During the process, yes. Not when the Pancham Makara, the fifth Makara comes in. In fact, very often after the 4 Makaras are, the 4 Makara means after the meat, fish, etc., done. So each one can retire with their partners, specific partners, and perform it in privacy. perform the fifth ritual, which is, again, they know this process. So they know what mantras to be chanted and how long, etc. They can do it in their privacy.
Okay. Wow, so many questions right now. Why do these tantric sex techniques then work for the everyday human who reads it out of books? Because there must be some power in them, in those formats, in that technique that adds itself to an orgasm. I'm asking from a very city person point of view, nothing to do with tantric practice.
So there are certain techniques that work to enhance the the sexual intimacy and pleasure and all. But that is so taking it out of the context is it has another fallout, by the way. So if you take it out of the context, if you do these practices and just follow, so the techniques that were developed, for example, for ensuring that an orgasm doesn't come so easily until all the puja and the anusthana, etc., is completed during the process, etc. If you take it out from the religious context where it is used in that sense, you will end up becoming just the opposite thing that the religion abhors, which is you will become sort of a miniature version of a sex maniac. You will not only flare up your chakras that control sex, but you will go crazy about it. And if that's what you want, that's fine. Fair enough. Be clear in your head. Please go ahead and do what you want.
There's probably some neuroscience in this, that your body will release excessive dopamine in that moment.
Maybe. I don't know that. I can't comment on that. But my point is that the specificity of this is useful. This is useful as a technique only if you remember the context in which it is to be used.
So even at the peak of this technique, when used correctly, there is an orgasm, but it's not an orgasm.
It is an internalized orgasm. But initial stages, it will not. So for people who practice this, actually, in a very, very broad manner, I'm defining it without going into more specifics. So initial stages, it is not going to work, that you will not be able to retain the orgasm. But eventually, as the practice deepens, etc., you are able to internalize the orgasm and it is at that peak moment when the mantra attains maximum power. Without the mantra, all this is meaningless. The mantra attains power, and the mantra becomes what is known as, you reach a stage, a specific technical thing that is used in text, which is called the mantra chaitanya, which means the mantra awakens. It becomes an alive entity inside you. Mantra is the deity. That is the moment your connection is built in a second.
I'm sorry if I'm crossing a line here, but is it like when you orgasm in that ritual, you have the vision of the deity?
More or less, but more or less. But it is not, again, just like any other ritual for that matter, even a normal puja, etc. It is not going to happen in day one. It is to practice, okay, with the right partner and all the other settings being set in place, etc. But yes, in that moment when the orgasm happens, etc. In fact, one of the things that people were more keen on in those who are in this, those who practice this kind of asana, specifically for men, so that they can somehow retain the orgasm, or if possible, even sort of, go beyond the orgasm, not have the orgasm. Why? That is because orgasm calls, the moment there's an orgasm, there's this basic fall in the level of energy. Okay, so one of the typical things that after an orgasm that can happen in general is that you feel sleepy, you feel a little tired. So they did not want that fall of energy at any state, even during this process. So all these things that I'm talking about, by the way, makes only sense if you are doing the upasana. If you take it out of the context, then it's just whatever else you want to do, your business.
How long is that vision of the deity? Is it like an orgasm for like 3-4 seconds?
The vision of a deity, if it properly manifests, your conception of time will go away. That is what is called a samadhi. Samadhi means you enter into a zone where your normal sense of time, you're concentrated, a single pointed concentration on the deity or the mantra is so deep that you lose track of time.
Okay.
You lose track of everything.
I hear you. Okay. Let's make this conversation much more basic, because I think you've explained a very high level tantric practice.
Mm-hmm.
We as a brand often get criticized for highlighting the power of semen.
Okay.
there is a movement called the NoFap movement, which is basically, it's a worldwide thing where a lot of men have decided to retain semen. Why?
Okay.
The Western perspective is that Muhammad Ali, Tesla, all these people used to retain semen and they felt benefits of it. My opinion on it is that when you combine semen retention with yoga, it's more beneficial. Like that's where the actual benefits of retaining semen come through. Please correct me if I'm wrong or if your opinion differs. I feel like retaining semen, that practice can become very frustrating, especially for a younger guy. When you're a teenager, you're full of hormones, your system isn't set yet. So maybe it's not even a practice for everyone. And in saying that, every single person who ever follows yoga, whoever follows any sort of spiritual path, always highlights the power of semen. And celibacy, even when you're talking about celibacy for women, staying away from sex is highlighted as a positive thing to help you on your yogic journey. Where do you want to begin this conversation?
From the last statement. That's because that's correct. So this is highlighted as a spiritual benefit. In my opinion, it is, and I mind you, my perspective of all that I'm saying is only from the spiritual perspective.
Sure.
Okay, not so outside of that context. Why somebody wants to retain semen or why not? I have no interest and I don't even know. So I can't even comment on that movement. What is the goal and aim, etc. But there is a benefit to maintaining celibacy. But it should not be taken to the level that, okay, that is the final goal, that if I maintain celibacy, everything is going to fall in place. No, you are going to get complete nuts. You'll be crazy. There is a selective release and a selective celibacy that has to be combined together so that it works out. That is why our dharma, the Hindu dharma, says that there are 4 goals in the average person's life. Dharma is one of them, which is your sense of religion, righteousness, etc. Dharma, artha, which is your money that you earn or the prosperity. Kama, which is your lust and which is your desires and etc. And finally, there is moksha. So if kama was something that you should be completely rejecting out of it, so if you without kama, there is no life in the first place. Okay. So it is there. It is the only thing that they're talking about basically fundamentally is that like water, to give a simple example, like water, and like if that proverbial Newton's apple flows downwards because the gravity is going to pull you down and things like that, water flows from higher and to lower, etc. So if you indulge unrestricted in sexual activity, it is more or less going to pull your powers, energies down, and you will feel a lack of, as I said, very simply speaking, kind of tiredness. Mantra sadhana, any kind of spiritual practice at the initial stages has to make you a little bit more alert, energetic, less sleepy. In fact, one of the things that if you do a practice, it is when you are sleeping, that is when you are most unguarded, by the way. Okay. Initial stages. So higher level yogis actually, they try to transcend even sleep. Very high level. Again, these cannot be forced. So my viewpoint in celibacy is that do not even force it, but maintain a certain decorum and discipline in it. Don't run around everybody and everything that you feel like, having a relationship with. Not like that. Have a basic common sense idea of how much you can indulge and how much you do not. And this idea is, by the way, the way I'm describing it is not something very unique or something I have thought about. Our texts will tell you that for a married man, to have a physical relationship with his wife is also celibacy. Nobody, not any point are we asking people that you leave everything and become a sannyasi.
Is there a specific text?
Oh, this is the general idea of celibacy. That if you are a married man in the Vedic system, why do you think the Vedic karma kanda rituals mandate that 90% of the rituals is barred for an individual who is not married? You cannot sit in a Vedic fire ritual, proper Vedic fire ritual, if you don't have legally married wife with you. You are barred from it. Doesn't matter how good your meditation is, how much yoga you can do, and etc., and how much brahmacharya you follow. You don't have a wife, you are not married, you cannot sit there.
Do some spiritual processes start only after marriage?
If you were to practice certain tantric upasanas, yes. But more or less, marriage is a very balancing thing, in my opinion. And it's helpful if your partner is also, of the spiritual bent of mind. I mean, obviously. But coming back,
what if she's not?
Then you're bad luck. There's nothing much I can say about that. So coming back to the point, but it is not to say that I'm not, again, not to misconstrue what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that means that you have unrestricted, physical relationships. No, celibacy has its utility also. It builds up certain power during that limited phase of time when you are following it. So my recommendation to people who are actually in the path of any kind of spiritual practice is that, and I deal more with people who are into the worship of deities, the tantra sadhana, mantra sadhana, using mantras, tantras, the puja paddhati. So suppose you are into an anusthana of a deity. So you make a sankalpa or a promise to a deity for 10 days or 15 days or 21 days. So you follow a limited period of celibacy. During that time, the only reason is that when you follow celibacy and you do that practice, it helps building up power inside you. However, power is only useful if you have the capacity to digest it. If you don't digest it, one of the other things that happens, for example, you start doing a lot of mantra sadhana of any deity suddenly, okay, with no practice beforehand, you start 4 or 5 hours of mantra japa today. The first thing that you are going to see after some days is the tremendous increase in lust, tremendous increase in anger. These are the two leaks through which the power is going to get out of you, because your system simply does not have the capacity to absorb it. You can eat only that much food, as much as your stomach can digest. Other things are going to get vomited out. This is the spiritual vomiting that happens. You will end up having all sorts of, running around everybody, physical relationships unrestricted, and then anger unrestricted, these two things. The balancing, how much of a spiritual power a particular individual can take through the practice, and how much of a physical relationship or an anger, by the way, is equally dangerous. It just, in a second, your power, whatever you have accumulated, is also going to go out. This is where the role of a mentor, a guru, is so important, because you will take a lot of time to figure out that what is it that works for you. A good mentor, a good guru who can handhold you, and I'm not saying, and I don't mean that, there are many organizations where you go and there are 1,000 people getting an initiation, and then after that for 10 years you have no clue where your guru is and where you are sitting at home and doing practice. No, I mean somebody who actually handholds and guides you step by step, sort of, at least, and tells you that what to do and what not to do. So there is no idea like this initially, and it should not even be encouraged that right now from this age become completely celibate, forget everything, and it is going to make you some spiritual superstar. Nothing of that sort is going to happen.
What do you think of masturbation?
Same principle that happens in celibacy. Same principle. So if somebody is masturbating and he's practicing some spiritual, same thing. There's a leakage of energy that is going to happen. So whatever I talked about right now in the course of a physical relationship, etc., remove the word physical relationship, add masturbation. Same thing. There's no difference. It is not going to make any other good or bad or anything. And I'm not talking even from a moralistic perspective. I don't care what anybody does in their privacy. But unrestricted, yes, definitely it is going to interfere with your process, with your sadhana at a higher stage. And one of the biggest disadvantages of unrestricted sexual encounters, or masturbation for that matter, is that, as I say, in the peak point of concentration, you should be like this. When you are sitting for your japa or yoga or meditation or whatever, at that peak moment, you should be able to forget the whole world. Even if that is for 2 seconds, then it is working for you. What happens with unrestricted, either whether physical encounters, unrestricted sexual encounters, or excessive masturbation, is that it is at that peak moment that your chitta, which is the, kind of the mind that has impressions, it is going to throw up all sorts of images, and immediately it is going to break your concentration. Very minor thing, but your practice is already gone. You can pretend to the outside world that you are a great yogi and you are doing a lot of practice, but inside your practice is not working. So that is the problem. On the other hand, if you completely say that, oh, from today, no physical, no sex, no masturbation, no nothing, you have to become, I don't know what, in 2 days you'll go crazy. Neither his mantra is going to work, neither the practice is going to work, neither this is going to work. So that balancing is important. And we live in that kind of an age where to sell a toothpaste, you have to put 2 skimpily clad women on the advertisement. Where is your celibacy going to come from?
The society we live in stimulates us to shoot a load off.
That is where you have to maintain that common sense, use common sense and balance. And no point in the spiritual journey are you to give up your common sense. You will end up becoming a fool.
Yeah. Also, I mean, this is just a personal thought here, not learned from a book, probably learned from experiences. My thought is that if a spiritual truth does not make sense to you and your subjective reality, no one's asking you to accept it.
Yeah.
So if this is against your thoughts, don't accept it.
And I'm not even judgmental of people who say, by the way, just because I'm sure that a lot of people will see that there may be traditional people who have celibacy, they put it into a very high pedestal. I'm not being judgmental and all that. You do whatever you think is right for you. But if you're asking me, this is how you should approach in this age initially. And the impulse, celibacy comes naturally, by the way.
Yeah, that I was just like literally a second before you said that, I was thinking about the same thought, that your libido, if you're involved in a yogic life, a spiritual life, a tantric life,
yes,
your lust settles down without any effort.
Yes. After a certain point of time, it will settle. There are, since we are on the topic, there are two other factors, by the way, you have to remember here. I think yesterday we were discussing about Pitrus, ancestors who are stuck in a Pitru Loka, who are not able to move forward. Very often, in many cases, an excessive amount of lust in an individual, whereas they may be practicing everything well, is basically a projection of the impulses of those Pitrus. And if it is the case, and that can be analyzed through, various looking at the configuration of the planets at the time they're born and various other ways of finding out, that is the case, then the only way is to actually perform rituals in the right kshetra, the right place, so that the ancestors get reborn, and then it causes, you define it in whatever way you want, but then it has an effect that slowly, that libido or that excessive amount of, so normal lust is one thing, normal lust everybody has, but it goes beyond everything, all rationality, etc. Then it also comes down, things calm down a bit. That is one. The other is with age also libido kind of can taper off. For a person who is genuinely spiritual, yes, that is what is happening. For somebody who is not in the spiritual path, it's up to them. I mean, I have no judgment on what they are doing or not doing. It's completely their life, their choice.
Yeah.
But spiritually, this, so Pitrus are one of the things, by the way, that is there in quite a few cases. I've seen people who face sudden bursts of, whether it's excessive amount of lust or whether it's excessive anger or certain, and that also manifests a certain blockages in life in various stages, etc. Those go off only when the Pitrus, something is done to placate those Pitrus. Okay. And if that is there, if there's a normal amount of lust, then to look at it as a manageable thing. The other problem that happens, it tapers off of it on its own. It will in time. Okay. Don't make it as a big thing in your head. That's the other problem that happens with a lot of spiritual people. I am not able to get out of lust, so you feel guilty about it. That is far worse than actually, indulging in physical relationship, sex or masturbation or anything. After that, the guilt trip that happens to some people, that, okay, I could not maintain celibacy, that is not going to help you. That is far worse.
Rajarshi sir,
Yes.
intense. I don't think the internet in general has a piece like this anywhere. Definitely not on a written blog.
Right.
So I'm glad that we could do this on a podcast. Don't have any more questions with regard to this particular episode. Also, while we're shooting this in real time, this is the 5th episode we've recorded.
Yeah.
Right before this, we recorded a Hindi episode, also fantastic. And 3 epic English episodes yesterday. And I still feel there's 15 more podcasts that we have to cover. So thank you.
Yeah. And just one point suddenly.
Sure, go for it.
Because we were discussing about.
Go for it.
It's such a beautiful way in which certain concepts are represented in the Hindu culture. For example, there is the famous story of Lord Shiva who destroys Kamdeva. Okay.
Who's the god of lust?
Lust and love. So somebody tells him that Shiva is meditating. Okay. Shiva is in deep meditation, is not even aware of anything. So somebody tells him Shiva must have a son. That son can destroy an Asura. Asura is one of those powerful negative entities. Only a son born out of Shiva. But he is in meditation. And in meditation, in the deepest meditation, is not even aware of the world, is not even aware of any physical existence, nothing. Where is lust going to come? So they bring this Kamdeva and they tell him that please do something. So the story says that he fires arrows. Okay. And those arrows, when they hit somebody, that's when the lust, desire arises. So he comes and he does something. So Shiva is in deepest meditation. Suddenly there is this slight awakening of stirring of desire inside him. And he opens his eyes and he's furious. Who is it that disturbs his meditation? So he opens his third eye. Shiva's third eye is the thing. Okay. And he looks at Kamdeva and he's burnt to ashes straight away. Okay. burned to ashes. Now there is a huge problem. If kama, if desire is gone, so how will the world run? World is finished without desire. Okay, then the goddess Parvati, she comes in and she requests him that no, you can't do that. Do something, because otherwise everything is finished. Whole world runs on desire. Everything, there is nobody who doesn't have desire. Desires are there not only. By the way, by desire we always think that it is lust, but it could be your body has a desire for food when you don't eat for a long time. You have a physical pain, your body has a desire for going to a state where that pain is not there. It's ingrained in you. It's in your cells, not just your mind. Desire is what runs. It's the engine, it's the glue that is making this world run continuously. And there's nothing wrong in it. Just like there's nothing wrong in anything if it is correctly understood and applied. So then Shiva says, okay, I will revive him, but without a physical body. So here comes Kamadeva. He's reborn again, and he has no physical body. And by the way, this whole episode happens in Kamakhya. She is the goddess of all this tantric vidyas and all these things. Now, this is such a beautiful idea. So here we have a Kamdeva, the lord of desire, who has no physical form. What it means is that desire can come in any shape. Lust is born here. From here it enters and then it spreads everywhere. So because he doesn't have a physical form, that means that he can manifest in any form, anywhere. And he cannot be destroyed. Something that doesn't have a physical form is also kind of omnipresent and omnipotent. So this beautiful idea comes to us through this kind of a story.
How do you take care of the Kamdeva that's everywhere then?
You follow a basic common sense discipline and you don't fight it too much. It is on its own, it will go. And yes, certain devatas, since we are on the topic, certain deities, for example, Lord Shiva, and getting a blessings from Shiva is not so easy, by the way. Lord Shiva, he can take the mind to a state where kama is not needed beyond lust. But it is not something that is to be forced, neither something that is, artificially imposed. On its own, it happens. And till the time it happens, one follows a basic common sense, basic standard discipline. So you follow a limited amount of indulgence in lust, and then there are phases you deny. Do not go too much into it, neither you run away completely from it. That balance is important. Balance, well integrated life along with the sadhana and the practices that you do eventually will lead the path for you, and automatically whatever has to be left from your system will go away. Fighting is not useful.
Rajarshi sir, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great learning from you. Looking forward to meeting you in person again when you're in Mumbai the next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Namaste.
Namaste, sir. So that was the episode for today. We've done an additional episode with Rajarshi sir in Hindi that's going to be out very soon. I highly recommend that if you understand Hindi, you should check out a Hindi podcast. There's certain kinds of content pieces that can only come out better in Hindi. Please check it out. It's over on our Hindi channel. Make sure you also check out Level Supermind, which is our meditation app. It's for beginners, intermediates, and advanced meditators. So if you're looking for a deep dive into your own mind, a deep dive into your own spiritual journey, Level Supermind is where it's at. I've linked it down below. And for more episodes like this, make sure you follow TRS on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. One last request for you guys is to tell me what else you'd like to see Sir speak about. Sir's definitely going to return on the Ranveer Show. I genuinely intend on visiting him in Bengal, possibly doing a visit to the Kamakhya Devi temple in Assam. But generally, I'd like to know from you guys which other topics y'all would like to see covered on this podcast. Let me know in the comment section down below and keep supporting TRS.